Welcome to Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm... Fuck, it's cold spook.
It's not only cold here, it was cold Friday night.
Was it?
What the fuck is going on with this team? Let me actually, just before you answer, say this. So, limped into Dubai, played really
They went to
undermanned.
Dubai.
What?
They went to Dubai.
We limped into Dubai.
Why did they live there? Did they fly?
Yeah, well, you send away we fly. Played with a really undermanned side. Had some meritorious wins against like Melbourne, beat Carlton unexpectedly. Went through that little patch with like 1 loss, 2 draws, 7 wins. You think going into Dubai, getting players like the Goey and Pendles and Mychek back, that would be, okay, we should actually be shoring up our assault in the second half of the season. And we've had 2 fucking horrible performances. 2 terrible, shitful performances, which I actually find relatively inexcusable. What the fuck is going on?
That's a good question. I have no fucking idea. I mean, I got theories. Got lots of theories.
Hit us with a theory.
Well, there's a couple of things. Is that I don't. It's hard to sit back and watch what you've watched and think there has to be something other than the fact they've just turned to shit for no reason.
But this is the interesting thing. I mean, because they won 7 games, and you thought, well, they're actually not travelling not bad given the circumstances. Now they've really gone backwards.
I mean, the thing that's been concerning, and I guess it's been mentioned a few times now, it's the same pattern each week. It's that, starting well or not starting well in the North case. But generally starting well, then just fucking stopping. And then they're overrun, they have a little bit of a fight back. Normally I think they used to rely on the fact that they could get their nose in front and win. And we're only talking a couple of games here. It's not like I'm saying always. But they've fallen short where they used to be good at this stuff. Now, granted, you've got a number of outs. There's about 8 probably first starters from the last couple of years that are missing.
If you look at it now, I mean, of the guys, the side we fielded last week against Essendon, so the only ones you'd really consider missing are Mitchell, Cox, and Elliott.
Noble out.
Noble to some extent, but I mean Noble wasn't in your grand final team, so I'll get to the defence in a bit. But I mean, it's only really 3 players I think that they've.
Murphy, I think, is still.
Murphy's probably the biggest one, but
loss.
He's a big loss, but he's not going to come back. So
isn't he?
No.
What, he saw the writing on the wall? You reckon? I'm out of here. I'm going while the going got good.
Let's just stop. Go back to the Murphy. All right. So the defensive 6. Watching it Friday night was Markov really tried to run, but geez, he ran into problems a lot of times. It was just like he was running mindlessly, and there was things he was doing. Like he took a really nice intercept mark on half forward, then he turned around and kicked it to the Goey, who wasn't really any closer, and then the Goey played on, and that was sort of the theme of the night. It was like, you're playing on, you're doing things. I don't even think part of the side knows what the rest of the side's doing.
No, and I wouldn't single out Markov in that particular instance because they all fucking did it. That was frustrating to watch. The amount of times that the ball would be given to someone who was immediately under pressure. It was like watching a Buckley side run round at times.
Well, going back to the defence. So you've lost Murphy, so he's, like I said, completely out. I actually think McRae's fucked up because you've taken the start of the year when you brought Frampton into that defensive 6. It probably looked the most solid it's going to look and the closest to duplicating what it was with Murphy. And then what he's done since like the injuries to Cox and that, he's moved Frampton out of that back 6. So he's fucked with that back 6. He's now put Frampton back, but now he's moved Howe out of that back 6. So you're still fucking with that back 6.
Yeah,
it's like the one thing that was sort of working this year, you've really experimented with to try and solve other problems, but I think it would have been better solving other problems with personnel that weren't coming from the one area that was working.
Yeah, I really questioned, I think I mentioned it to you in messaging, why Howe was up forward again. I mean, it's not an experiment that produces an enormous upturn in goals or anything like that. And why, when the going got bad, he didn't swap Hoskin Elliott back around. Because I don't think you're losing anything by having Hoskin Elliott in the forward line. He's going to kick maybe 1 or 2. No more, no less than what Howe has generally been outputting. But today they came out with that thing about Howe was off for scans. around his hamstring, and there was an announcement he made that it sounded like it was fucking the end of it. But then he's been cleared of any hamstring injury. I wonder whether he's been going in under a cloud and playing forward was going to be less of a chance of tearing the hamstring than you'd probably do it in defence. You're doing a lot more burst starts in defence, I guess.
But you'd think you're doing burst starts in the forward line because you'd be leading to the ball.
Hang on, who are you talking about? We don't lead to the ball.
Yeah, but this is the other thing I was going to say, and this is what I think it's a ridiculous move to move Howe forward. And people will point to it. It's like that North Melbourne game. Hey, move Howe forward. And one, it's like once they actually started running, then Howe was able to present a few leads. And it was no different to what Kruger did against Melbourne when the side was running for the whole fucking day. So I actually think it's a misnomer that they've moved Howe forward to address an issue, and apparently he's creating solutions by leading like a genuine forward. Well, where was that against Essendon? No one led against Essendon. So the connectivity from midfield to forward line is fucked up.
Yeah.
And unless you actually increase the intensity around the ball with the ball carriers and all that sort of shit, I don't think the forwards are in any position to be leading, which was what we saw Friday night. They really all, including Howe, they all struggled. So I think the Howe thing's like a fucking Hail Mary for something which actually doesn't work, or has only worked at a time when the club or the team as a whole has lifted their intensity, and then they've all been running and all that sort of shit. Yeah. I mean, the bigger question too is why the fuck is Bobby Hill constantly ending up the key position target, and then the guys like Howe and Mychek and Kruger and that are the ones running up to the half forward line. That seems like they've fucked up how those players are making space for one another. Surely any one of those guys should be providing the contest, and then guys like Schultz and Hill and all that should be the ones providing the mopping up the spillage.
Oh, it's hard to tell. I mean, all that system and all that connectivity is broken at the moment. Well, so it really doesn't matter about where you're going to pick apart any section of the ground. There's always that leading area that's coming into it that's failing. The midfield's not delivering well into the forward line. The midfield's also not defending well enough to stop the ball from going in defence.
The midfield relies on this 21-year-old kid to have 35 possessions and kick 3 goals for us to be a fucking chance. On Friday night, he was really well held. At the start, I mean, he socketed it a few times because he didn't have space and all that. I get really frustrated with two things. One, I was just watching Nick, and he does that a lot where he actually makes contact with his tagger, and then the tagger grabs his hand. It's like, maybe stop doing that, Nick, and you're not giving them an opportunity. Maybe get on the move a little bit sooner. But the other thing, too, is just to break it up. They should be saying to him, hey, like every second contest or every second ball up, go out to the wing and have some space to run into. And that way they can't really grab you on that, or it's not really going to fucking help them grabbing you. Just try and mix it up. I mean, the thing that really shits me sort of the way they're set up, but the fucking thing that really shits me, how the fuck do you let Zach Merritt run around? It wasn't a clue that, I mean, he's gotten about 4,000 possessions in the last 3 games he's played against us. You wouldn't think that you'd maybe put someone on him?
You've had lessons the last couple of weeks of Dacos being tagged out of the game. You've got to look at it and think, and I don't like the tagging, and I've made that pretty clear. But if it's clearly fucking destroying your number one player, why don't you fucking use the same tactic on their number one player? Merritt killed us.
I know people go, who are you going to use to tag? The guy I would have used to fucking tag, because he hasn't been that good this year, is Josh Dacos. Because Merritt's not a big guy, so Josh could actually physically man up on him. Josh has been really, and we've been saying this for quite a while, he's really been disappointing this year. I mean, he's not the only one, but...
No. And he went into this game under that corky cloud, and fucking hell, didn't he play like it? Well, How many times did he fucking kick it to the opposition?
Well, but he's been doing that for like a month or so.
He made it look like an art form though this week.
But he does, and why McRae doesn't tell him stop, but it's like the amount of times you'll be like on the wing or wide, and then you'll turn around and go, I'm going to go for some impossible kick to a teammate in the centre, and I haven't seen him fucking nail a single one of them. He's always picked out an opponent, and why don't I just tell him, just fucking stop losing the ball? He did that in... was it the grand final or the prelim? But I remember, he sort of turned around and took a high-risk option. It's like, it's not the time for a high-risk option. It's time for you just to kick it to the fucking boundary line. Let's contest it, push it over, and reset. And the midfield's really disappointing. What does it say, actually? Going into this season, you lose Taylor Adams. You probably told Finn McRae, look, you're next in line. And then they draft Lockie Sullivan and Jack Bytel. And then going into the mid-season draft, they draft Ned Long. What does that tell you about Finn McRae, and also what does it tell you about their midfield stocks, or their perception of their midfield stocks?
They obviously don't have a lot of faith in them now. and you're really not topped up with anything of great quality. They've been good contributors. Ned Long, I thought, looked pretty promising.
I thought it was the best thing to come out of Friday night for us.
Though, a little bit that annoyed me with that is he's already tasted AFL senior action. He's played 6 games, I think it is already. Why would you sub him on? What's the benefit of it?
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, we've been talking about that while. Wouldn't you play as the sub, a tactical option, or someone who's going to have an immediate impact? You know, I'd rather play Hoskin Elliott as the sub. I'd rather play Josh Dacos as the fucking sub. I thought Ned Long, when he came on, maybe they wanted a little pace go off the game. I thought pretty much everything he did was pretty cool. There's the one holding the ball he gave away, but I actually didn't mind that because he got tackled and swung around. And most players would panic and just fucking get rid of it. But he really he probably held on to, well, not probably, but he did hold on to it too long looking for an option. In the end, he handballed it to a teammate, but they just called holding the ball. So I actually thought it was really cool the way he showed the composure. A few times he turned him inside out. He's the sort of guy, if he works for you, he's going to actually create options in terms of pushing Nick a little bit down so he doesn't have to do a lot of the inside work himself, similar with the Goey and all that. So I actually don't know why they didn't draft him at the start of the year. You know, if you've been listening to us for like 6 years, it's just like, stop drafting little players. Draft, you know, big guys who can fucking hold their own in tackles and all that. But like, I thought he was the best thing to come out of Friday night for us. I thought Kruger's second half was promising.
Yeah, I think, again, it shows, though, when you leave him in the forward line, he's a lot more damaging. Running around and pinch hitting in the ruck and all that sort of thing, it really robs him of what he's bringing to the side at the moment, which is probably, for the rare times that it comes in, does straighten the forward line up a little bit. And he provides some really good attacking pressure in there. And that's been lacking at the moment, you know. Fucking, the other thing that really shit me about the other night, how many fucking times do we fall over at crucial moments?
Yeah, I know.
Was there oil slicks out there?
I don't know.
It was like having Data from the Goonies running around with the were they wearing utility belts, Essendon?
Well, yeah. So like the three blocks of, you can say, the midfield and defence and the forward line, none of it's working, and none of it's connecting.
No.
There was criticism, I think, in the Herald Sun about like players being given time off to go do fucking their own thing, to go to Bali and shit, and they were talking about, I don't know whether they'd find this, the Herald Sun, but they're talking about like players themselves didn't know what their teammates would be doing, which is really staggering. They've changed their line coaches, which we've brought up earlier in the year, so that doesn't seem to be a really good choice. They've spent really high on Lockie Schultz, which we've talked about. So if we drop lower, Fremantle's going to end up with a top 10 pick for fucking Lockie Schultz and a second round pick, which is just insanity in trying to rebuild a list. What do you do with, sorry, going back to the side, what do you do with Darcy Moore?
He's either partly carrying something or he's just not
shot.
Well,
not confidence. I mean,
yeah, I think I think he's so used to what he used to have around him that it's just not working, and it's really exposing him somewhat. Not having that support around him, you've almost got to, like, you know, you've mentioned it 1,000 times. I think you've got to pull him out of the back line and put him up forward and just see whether you can start getting his hands on it a bit cleaner and start contributing a bit more.
Look, I don't know if he's injured, you can't do it. I'd seriously consider him as a ruck. I think he'd be such a superior option to pretty much every ruck in the league. But he really, it looks miles off he tries. I mean, I think he was on Caddy for large parts of the game, and bloody Caddy looked dangerous, and Caddy's about 13 years of age.
It was like there for a while, the game plan was just to let Caddy mark everything that came in.
So, you know, you look at the defense.
Caddy's played, what, about 10 games or something?
Yeah, or if that, you know. I mean, Frampton tried, he was sort of, you know, he fell out of position a few times. I thought Dean did some of his kicking was really neat. Like,
why do you reckon they took him off?
I just think they thought, let's get a bit more run in and let's lose a bit of height. That's the only thing I can guess.
Josh was having a calamitous game. It would have made more sense to get someone like that out of the field. Like, Dean wasn't doing any harm at the moment, although he was, at the time, he was defending quite well.
The thing, look, I've said it before, if you want to senior body up, or like in terms of physical maturity, if you want a physical mature body up, I'd even throw Dean up forward and just contest, and bring Howe back or something like that. I agree. I mean, why do you take Dean off? There's other options you could have taken off. And there's probably a couple which, like, if you took Josh off, as you've suggested, it'd probably be a good fucking lesson for him. Like, hey, what are you doing? You know, you really got to tighten up because this isn't the only bad game. You had a pretty average year.
Oh, well, that's it. I mean, yeah, you double down at least and use it as an excuse to say, look, it didn't look like you were going to be playing up until Wednesday or whatever it was. Fly said in the press conference that you've got it out for someone like that can save a little bit of face. You know, look, I mean, everyone knows you had a shit game, but at least you can say, well, obviously the injury was impacting that and we decided to take you off. Yeah, but it was baffling. There was a lot of baffling decisions.
I thought Essendon played relatively smart too, in terms of like, did you notice when Draper was rucking against Kruger, Draper was just like, I'm just going to thump the fuck out of it because I have such a physical advantage over Kruger as a ruck. It was like, let's just get the ball moving. And Essendon seemed to play the way we would generally play.
Well, they play that high uncontested possession game and they slowly move the ball up into attack. I think we countered that quite well in the first quarter by playing. We just kept going up the middle, and when we were looking direct and connected well in that first quarter, we looked $1 million. But then it just absolutely like a switch was turned off, and they just went back to that high uncontested possession type game, and then they just sort of kept chipping away at us.
Well, the really bad thing there in that first quarter is at the end there was about 5 seconds left, and they got a shot at goal which they nailed, and I mean, they were missing anyway, but like there was Harrison missed one, Joe Richards missed one, and it was like, put a couple of extra goals going to the first quarter, 7 goals to 1 or something, and then you get, you sort of going with a bit of momentum, and they are like shit, we have to chase this down. You always whenever you let the opposition get a goal at the end, after the siren, it's like, they're fucking getting a look in here. And that's sort of the way they played that second quarter. They really came back at us, and then we really struggled. Pendlebury and Sidebottom. Like, Sidebottom had the most possessions for us.
Yeah, but he was really playing that loose, sweepery type role in defence. There was a lot of easy possessions. Not that, I'm belittling him or anything like that. But I think the game was a little bit over-inflated. He wasn't all that damaging. Some of his kicking was terrible. But he's good at those little dinky short kicks. I'll give him that. So, like, he can look good in that role. I don't think you'd be playing him there every week, though.
Yeah, Pendles?
He was better than the week before.
Not hard.
No. I don't remember him really standing out. I've erased a lot of this game, though.
The one thing I remember is him almost being chased down by Draper when he was running into a goal.
Oh, I do remember him in pursuit of someone coming out of...
No, there was no way. Draper chased him down for that goal. And I remember...
He was chasing, and he just looked fucking slow. He was never super fast, but he just looked... You go, well, that's it. That's your top gear there. And he's breaking away. There's nothing you can do.
So Myercheck is out for the season now.
Mm-hmm.
Dan McStay said to be only weeks away.
Well, he's meant to be coming back for a half a game in the VFL this week.
I mean, I find it laughable people think, he'll solve all of the forward problems, which is just fucking hell. Do you seriously?
It won't hurt, but it's not a solution.
No. Elliot is allegedly a test to play this Friday night, which I really hope that's not a Hail Mary, because it's like if he's injured and you're rushing him back, geez, I wonder how that'll turn out.
No, he's not really injured though, is it? Is it?
I think his foot was about to fall off.
Because the foot was turning black.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
a good thing though.
I suppose technically, obviously it has to be an injury, but it's not something that was sustained and caused it. It's something that's just happened.
Yeah, but I don't know. How do you recover from that?
Well, I know it's be obviously rest and some
white
spray paint. I think.
Is it surgery or is it like something that?
Well, no. I think he's been under the knife, so it's obviously something that rest and monitoring.
But is that something you can aggravate by coming back too soon?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't been told what the actual injury was.
Collingwood
or ailment rather than injury.
So, what do you do going forward? I mean, if you look at like. The whole year, we've been spasmodic. There's been a couple of games. The Melbourne game was promising. The West Coast game, but they're shit, so I don't really count that. And I think there was another game, the Carlton game, were pretty decent the whole game. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the games have been typically spasmodic. We've been talking about is it a lack of hunger for some of them, so that's a drop-off. Are they screwing around with the training loads now?
I mean, they're the two theories that I espouse during the week. I wonder whether, and you're seeing like Sydney now, they've lost 2 games in a row. Because I think we started up in training loads a little bit later in the year, and we tapered off just before finals. I'm wondering whether we've looked at that and thought, well, maybe we should pull it back a little bit, start it now, we'll probably sacrifice a couple of wins, which will obviously achieve that bit, tick. But the benefit we'll realise towards the tail end of the season, you have a bit more of a continuous run of fitness in going into the finals. I think part of it is the troops that are out generally performing those roles better than anyone else, and we're not really readjusting to that particularly well. We're just not finding the synergies that we probably take for granted that we have. And I think the other one, and I reckon there's merit in this, is that closer you get to finals, those that aren't mentally switched on or mentally capable of doing another tilt are pulling back a little bit, and they know what's to come, and probably start thinking of, look, maybe I don't think I've got it in me to have another crack this year. You saw it; it's a very similar trajectory to what happened to Geelong last year. They started slow, they sort of eked out wins, sort of come good, dropped off, but they just didn't have the fire again. But they
had a lot of injuries. I mean, I think
we've certainly got that one as well.
I think the one big difference of Geelong is they won the flag in 22 and Joel Selwood retired, and I think he was such a spiritual leader and just genuine leader of that side. Once he was there, that was something they really missed, and I don't think they've replaced it to this day.
But it's like list-wise, they're very similar, aging lists. Yeah, I think there is probably some parallels between our year and their year.
Okay, so let's look at that. All right, so you have guys who might not be hungry. There's talk of the Lepich giving everyone a speech going like, "Oh, you got one premiership medal, I got 3. Is this where you want to settle?" and all this sort of shit. Does it really make sense then that you trade out Taylor Adams and Jack Ginnivan? I mean, Adams, we don't really know the story. He seemed like...
I think at that stage, you're probably looking, and you were genuine in the fact that you really didn't think he was going to get that many opportunities.
Jokes on Collingwood.
Well, that's right. I mean, in hindsight, you clearly fucking would have gotten him.
Derek hindsight?
Ginnivan, we don't know the real story there. Clearly, he was probably a bit of a problem child, and they obviously felt moving forward that that's probably better to be someone else's problem. And, we'll get back something, but we didn't really get much.
Nothing. And depending on where Hawthorn finish compares to where we finish, it's getting less and less. I've said this 1,016 times. I think in terms of the list management, you're still really hurting from the fucking salary cap debacle that you lost Aish, Treloar, Stevenson, Phillips, Brodie Grundy. So that's 5 players who, potentially would be in your starting 23. 4 of them would be in your starting 18. You got nothing back for them. You've had to deal around the salary cap management because you haven't had the room to do so because you've had to bring this fucking bloated warthog of a thing down. So it's really hamstrung how you actually trade with other clubs and shit like that and how you deal. I mean, now we're meant to be clear allegedly, but who knows? They could still be paying people from the 29 grand final side for fucking all we know with their salary cap management. But that's really, I think, hurt them. But in terms of that also hurting them, it's hurt them that they've lost these guys and they haven't really had players come in to an extent to really replace them positionally. I mean, I know you got your Lipinskis and your Tom Mitchells and all that, but you really haven't... Like, if you look at, most sides that win flags, they'll have their 23, and then they'll generally have, 5 or 6 players who could have played sitting in the VFL. If you go back to that 210 side, it was like that. And those guys end up sort of leaving, and, you look at Richmond, Brandon Ellis and that sort of left, to other clubs and all that sort of shit. We haven't had that, and then you lose 2 players. Ginnivan, you've pumped 3 years into him. Surely you should be looking at him as, let's play, you should be here for another 10 years. Now, again, as you said, we don't know what the story was. Taylor Adams would easily be still playing. I find it interesting that Adams left I'm not going to get him midfield time, and he's gone to Sydney, and it's like, you're not getting midfield time there either.
He was sub, I think, on the weekend, wasn't he?
Yeah, and you're behind a much stronger midfield than what we've got. Much, much stronger midfield. So it's that's an even less likely place to get midfield time. So I just found that really still a baffling decision that you don't have that deeper list. I would have rather said, what, Jack Ginnivan, you're still contracted for a year, you're staying, and if you end up leaving us for nothing, we'll fucking take that, but we're going to get a year out of you. And Taylor Adams, I don't know what his contract situation was, but I just, again, looking at our midfield, I would have thought you got to keep as many senior bodies there, and I think it's a concession that they went for Bytel, for Lockie Sullivan, and for Ned Long. That's 3 midfielders they've added, 3 plug-and-play midfielders, 3 guys who've actually been around for a while. So they obviously recognised there was a void there, and they've tried to fill it.
In that age bracket too.
Yeah, so... And that's where, again, I think the salary cap debacle of 5 years ago, it's still... The club still feels it.
You would think so. I mean, realistically, who's going to retire at the end of the year?
I think potentially Sidebottom, but I think he'll try and go another year.
Oh, that's a given. If he's offered another year, he'll take it.
Yeah, how?
If he's offered another year, he'll take it.
I think, yeah. I mean, Pendle's, they've already... Pendle's, until he was injured, was playing well.
He'll be playing another year.
Yeah, so...
So you're not pulling back a lot of money at the end of the year.
Tom Mitchell would be another one.
Well, he's 31. He's a big contracted. We wouldn't have taken him on a single-year deal.
Yeah.
Or a 2-year deal. He
Jamie Elliott.
Well, he's still in contract, isn't he?
Yeah, but I look at it also from the point of view, like, physically, if they're not up to it.
Yeah, and I'm approaching this from the perspective of anyone who retires, you're going to free up some salary cap space.
Yeah.
Anyone who retires prematurely, you're going to have to pay him out, which is still absorbed in the cap.
I think Murphy is actually still contracted for a year. I think they gave him that as a sort of...
Yeah, no, I think they go back to the AFL with those ones and say under medical retirements, you do get to recoup part of it or majority.
No, but
of it
I think they actually gave him.
Space.
I think they gave him the year just so he wouldn't have.
Oh
pressure.
no, they did. Yeah. So there.
But then that'll end at the end of the year.
But I think that's negotiated back into that.
But that wouldn't be a huge contract, you'd imagine.
It would have been probably sizable, I think, by the time because he was performing well. It would have been.
I think it was on about $9 million for 12 years.
Oh, maybe I should give football a crack.
Oh, at Collingwood.
I'd do it for $9.
At Collingwood, no. I imagine it would have been about 600.
Where I'm going with all this is that I don't think there's
all this.
I don't think there's any massive fucking restricted or unrestricted free agents available at the end of the year. I think coming into the next 20 years of compromised drafts, surely our mindset is we're going to free up all of a sudden, unless, of course, there is still an underlying issue with the cap. We're going to free up all this money. We're just going to go out and buy some fucking quality. But that may not happen at the end of this year. Maybe it's slated to happen.
When was the last time
year.
Collingwood bought genuine superstar
the thing
quality?
is we've fucked the list the cap up for fucking how long. We haven't probably been in a position where we can do it.
But even if you look at it like
we're building a war chest.
Yeah. Alright, so Tom Mitchell's a good player. I know people say Brownlow medalist, but he's not really the A grade Bob type, Petrarca type. You go back, Treloar, you wouldn't quite put him in that list. You probably put him just behind. He'd be very handy right now at Collingwood. And then you go back.
But that's the thing too. We're also still paying these players.
Yeah, we're still paying Gordon Coventry, I believe. So you go back to
Proudfoot.
Luke.
Well, we're going to pay him in pounds.
Yeah. Well, Luke and shillings. Luke Ball 210.
We're still paying him.
No, I'm just saying in terms of the quality sort of recruits. And then before that, you'd probably go back to Anthony Rocco, like a high profile who was picked to in the draft. We got him from Sydney. You probably have to go back to Nathan Buckley in '94 to actually say this is a superstar that we got or a superstar in the making that we got.
Yeah, but eventually we have to do it. Surely we get one of them right.
Well,
but the thing is, like you wouldn't your plan moving forward wouldn't be all based in let's just look at 12 months in advance. You'd have to be looking at maybe 3 to 5 years of who's potentially going to be on the horizon.
Maybe Dane Beers.
How much money can we set aside to maybe successfully nab one of these guys? The problem is that the majority of them these days go onto the market. They're all touted to come to Collingwood. A week later, they re-sign where they are. Logan McDonald, I think we talked about him last week, just signed a 4-year deal with Sydney. With all the misses he does after the...
Sorry, perfect Collingwood.
We've probably dodged the bullet there. He'll probably fucking win every game against us now off his own boot.
Yeah. Oh, he kicked 4 against us, so I think that's the most he's kicked the whole year. You were talking about Jesse Hogan.
Yeah, I mean, look, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but we had our chances to nab him. Now, I think there was concerns, obviously, around whether he'd be able to sort of mentally cope with the demands of being a Collingwood player. But fucking hell, he's good. I remember when he destroyed Carlton on the weekend. Thank fuck, good work, Jesse.
I remember when I saw him running around for Melbourne the pre-season game, and I was thinking, oh fuck, this is so unfair that Melbourne's got him, because you could see this guy was just real class, and he obviously had his issues, and he went off the rails for a while, but he's found the equilibrium, and he's now really valuable. So I was saying last week, again internally, if they felt he could be rehabilitated, would you go after someone like a Clayton Oliver? Because he's sort of in the same position. A friend, Johnny, also pointed out Tyson Stengel was the same. He was dismissed from Adelaide, rehabilitated at Geelong as far as we know. if internally at the club they knew that, look, Oliver's really trying to get his football back together, this is the cheapest he'll be right now. Like, if he has a fucking gun 2025, forget it, it's off the table. But if you went to Melbourne and said, look, we're only prepared to give you 3 first-round picks for him, or pick 20, and you still have to pick up 200 grand of his salary or whatever, like, we had to do with Grundy.
What's he costing us?
In honesty, so I was being facetious about, like, paying 7 first-rounders. He'd be a pick 20, I'd say. At right now, with all the baggage that's coming around him...
They wouldn't take pick 20 for him.
With all the baggage there, I think he's someone who'd be like, you know what, we can get him.
If you're giving up an elite player...
But he's not elite right now. Right now he's really struggling.
His reputation's elite, and anyone dealing with us will remind you of that for 7 years. Wasn't he... What sort of contract is he on? He's on
like 9 years or something, yeah.
I mean, really, unless they thought he was a complete write-off. And the thing is, where I would find that deal attractive is that history will tell you that Melbourne's a fucking basket case.
The one
that someone that is struggling to keep his life on the straight and narrow wouldn't function well inside of a basket case.
Yeah.
If you got him in and you nurtured and you did all the caring, you can turn someone around like that. If you make them feel like they're a part of something, and look at the way they fucking treat Grundy at Melbourne.
Yeah.
They're a prick of a club with the way that they function. But you could get someone in like Oliver that would. And yeah, if you could turn him around, it'd be a fucking enormous asset.
I mean,
How old is he?
He's mid-20s, I think, 25, 26. And looking at him, like I said, I mean, internally they'd know at Collingwood whether he's, I don't want to say redeemable, that's not the right word, but whether they feel he's going to take his football seriously again. Obviously, he struggled for the last couple of years. You'd put him you'd let someone like Pendle's mentor him, and you think that could bring him around. But I mean, the reason I bring him up is because, talking about like Jesse Hogan, and he was pretty much a cast-off at Fremantle. Stengel was actually delisted by Adelaide, so Geelong picked him up as a listed free agent or whatever it was. Right now, with the baggage around Oliver, he will never be cheaper. I can't imagine anyone's going to pay a top 10 pick for him. Maybe something in the high teens. But right now, I'd say it'd be really, really inexpensive. And the one thing, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I know of a few deals that have happened where the club, not saying necessarily Collingwood, but the club's facilitated them because they have the player's best interest at heart. And actually, let's backtrack that. Grundy went to Melbourne. Worst deal for us because all Melbourne had was like pick 27. Would have been much better if we could have offloaded him to wherever, somewhere where they had a high pick. But Grundy said, I want to go to Melbourne. So we did the right thing by him. I was talking to my younger cousin just saying, 30 years ago, it was like, we're trading you to this club and you're fucking going whether you like it or not. And that was all it was too. But nowadays, players nominate their clubs and then...
The preferred destination.
Yeah, but how many times is it not a preferred destination? Oh, sorry. How many times is that not fulfilled outside of Nick Stevens at Collingwood and Luke Ball at Collingwood?
Yeah.
Sorry, is there a common denominator there?
Yeah, I think, and really, we must have a bit of a reputation as being the rollover merchants with some of these trades too.
I think Graham Wright's trading and wheeling and dealing has really set a bad reputation for the club. That's going to be really hard for dealing going forward. You go back to about 15 years ago when we traded Tarrant to Fremantle, and we also got, I think we got pick 8 or pick 10, I can't remember which one, but we got one of those picks, and then we also got Paul Medhurst out of it, who was All-Australian the following year. We really held firm. Even when we traded Beams, we got pick 5, we got Jack Crisp out of it. I think we got a pick in the 20s or something. So we held firm, we got something more out of it. I don't really like the way we've traded recently, and it all stems from that fucking salary cap debacle fire sale.
Well, that's it. I think you've gone out and told the world we're shit at managing our cap. You don't think anyone's going to exploit that?
Yeah, and then you look at stuff like the Schultz thing, which was almost like they said, let's just get this fucking deal done. Don't worry about we're going to lose the draft pick. We'll be top 4 next year, so it's going to be pick 15 or whatever. Joke's on you at the moment.
Yeah.
And we're going to be able to trade future round picks, so we'll be able to make up for it with the 25, 26, 27, 28 and 29 draft picks.
Yeah, I don't think we play the game particularly well.
No, I don't think we do. And you get Graham Wright, who's like, I want out of the club, I'm done, I'm retiring. And it's like, this guy's doing your trading. He's got one foot, out the door at the moment. is like probably looking at his playing flight game. Yeah, well, was that free on pick 9? You can have that. Yeah, sure.
Well, there wasn't someone talking about potentially he might go to the Tasmanian franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a retirement fund at the end of the day. You know, if he's burned out and had enough of football and that sort of thing, his heart's not going to be in it, even if you've got him doing consultancy work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like what Malthouse said, is once you start thinking about retiring, you're retired. And I think that's never truer than how sportsmen approach it too, whether they're in positions on the field or they're in positions in the clubhouse. It's the same logic you bring to your decisions, that when you think about it, you're 9/10 there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem.
They really need a fucking deal breaker to come in though, and just...
That's what I was going to say. They should really be appointing just someone to oversee the trading and all that sort of shit. And they might... it's probably too late now, but I think they need to make a stand in one or two trades and just go, fuck it. If we're going to get burned, we're going to get burned. But you'll learn that, hey, we're no longer pushovers. It's like when Mark Williams had been trade Nick Stevens. You know, I actually really liked that. I really admired that. And he said, he goes, why would I trade him to opposition who's like, a top side? Why am I helping them make them stronger? What are we getting out of it? And he just said, fuck it. And I think that sent a really good message to the rest of his list. Hey, look, we're not going to coddle you. If you want to go, you'll go where we send you.
Yeah, it's a different era, though.
I know, but that's only like 15, 16 years ago. So
I don't think any club would do that now. They're all too lovey.
Well, this is what I said before, is like, clubs tend to facilitate trades to accommodate the player rather than to get the best out of it for themselves. And
you lose your leverage, though. It's an unfortunate side effect. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, you're reading about Hawthorn are offering big dollars towards Battle, and there's a potential there that St Kilda could end up with 2 first-round picks as compensation for Josh Battle. I mean, he's okay. He's no fucking superstar. Yeah, we lose players of quality, and we're lucky to get a second rounder.
Oh, well, again, go back to the fire sale. Your Grundy for pick 27 or whatever, was the Treloar pick 5, Stevenson, who was coming off one bad year, but was the Norwich Rising Star, and had a decent 19 for like pick 25, and that was a 2 Bonsilvalagi, I can't pronounce that, for like...
Atu.
Yeah, for pick 25 or something. It was like you really... And Phillips was just a throwaway. So it was just you gave away all these people really cheap. And again, sorry, I'm not going to blame people. I'm going to blame Eddie Maguire. Is like Nathan Buckley's come out and said we tried to trade Brodie Grundy a couple of years earlier, and that would have been the fucking perfect move right then and there.
2 first rounders for him when his
and you would have alleviated a lot of the salary cap issues. So thanks, Eddie. Really good management.
Yeah, there almost needs to be a little bit of ruthlessness about the list. Look, and I think we made the same mistake in '90, where suddenly everyone as a premiership player was untouchable and excruciatingly valuable. That sometimes you've got to make some hard calls to get quality back in. To get back into the draft, you're going to have to let someone of potential quality go.
Well, interesting. I'm pretty sure that's what Craig Kelly actually said in Nathan Buckley's book, talking about that era, because Buckley, as brought up the other week, said when he arrived at Collingwood in '94, he felt like some of these guys weren't going to climb the mountain again. And I'm pretty sure it was Craig Kelly, who's his manager, was just saying what we should have done was some really judicious trading to rejuvenate the list with these guys when they had value. Instead, they didn't, and they stagnated. I mean, but to be fair, in the 90s, a lot of shit was going on behind the scenes. So, I don't know.
And you think with our rebuild, there's Nick Dacos in the middle of a whiteboard, and the rest of it's what do you put around him?
Yeah.
Because we don't have a lot that's screaming A-list.
No.
Now, I think Degoe's a good...
He's too spasmodic.
Yeah, he's good B to A grade with moments of sheer elite. But he's not consistent enough. It's just really Nick. There's no other position. Moore's dropped off. He was probably potentially elite, but that's really about it. You're gonna have to.
What about Lipinski?
You look, and you won a flag last year. Thank fuck for that. I'll thank you forever. It was wonderful, but it looks bleakish moving forward around what we have at our disposal with picks coming up, which is fuck all this year. Unless we do start trading to get back into the draft, if we rate it. Otherwise, we're essentially banking on keeping this list intact for another year, waiting for the massive retirements, getting a couple of million back into the coffers that you can start throwing at whoever's available at the end of next year. Well, that means, though, you're going to have a lean year next year, but I think that's a given anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is like the quality of the league, which you've brought up several times. I mean, I think I've said it before here. It's just, you got North Melbourne, who's had all these top 10 picks, and they're going to get another one at the end of the year. West Coast is going to get a few. Then you look at Carlton, who's up there, and, you know, they got Sam Walsh pick 1, Cripps Laws pick 10 or something, that retrospectively in that draft he'd be pick 1, Chera pick 5, Curnow was 10 or something, retrospectively he'd be pick 1, McKay was a top 10 pick, Wiedering was pick 1, even guys like Marchbank, who they've traded for, like a pick 8, they've picked up that Hollands, who I think is a really good pickup, and that's one of those, I don't want to say shady, but it's like that Jack Bowers Geelong, where like it's basically Gold Coast has dumped him and salary for Geelong to take that player just to get him off their books and shit like that. And they're sort of the guys I think Collingwood should look for. But in terms of the quality matching, we really don't have that quality that matches with those sort of clubs that have just sat on the bottom, been incompetent for quite a while, and just netted all these draft picks.
Yeah, I said it last week. You look at like fucking North this week again. They win, and they're starting to really build some momentum. And that side, with all the fucking talent they got, was never going to be shit forever.
Yeah.
Now they're hitting their straps, their confidence is up. They're going to be a fucking powerhouse in a year or two's time. You know, Gold Coast, when they can start learning how to win away from home, really should be a fucking good side. But these are sides that have been stockpiling those picks and building their lists up. They're going to be the dominant forces. And they've probably got at least another 5-6 years of being very competitive before the competition goes splat.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that's going to be extended because Tasmania's going to capitalise on a lot of these picks. And no doubt the AFL will bring in another bloody club to even it out.
Oh, that's a given. So it's going to be fucked for about 20 years.
But you look at, you go back to Melbourne, and they had all those top 10 picks. They took Petrarca at pick 3 or 4 or whatever it was. Oliver was a top 10 pick. I can't remember all the other ones. I mean, they had Scully at 1 and all that. But they had all these picks. And I don't think, they brought Paul Roos in to change the culture and all that sort of shit, and they gave it the good one. But I think the reality is, I mean, they had some relatively competent people in charge, finally, and just a fucking wealth of talent who was going to improve with time, and they came up. And that's what happens with all these shit clubs that just have a lot of top picks. They ultimately will improve as long as you can keep those players together, and as long as you're getting semi-decent players. Like, the one thing that shits me about Carlton is, if you look at their first rebuild in the 2000s, they got Mark Murphy and Bryce Gibbs and Matthew Caruza. They were good players, but this time around, they've got them fucking really good players like Cripps and Curnow. These are really freakish players. And I always sort of think when you're building for a premiership assault, you need to get like some players out of the draft who aren't just good, but they're fucking really good. And I think we did that going into 2010 with Pendles and Daisy for that couple of years. Going into last year's premiership, obviously Nick, but moving forward, it's like, what is there? So got Geelong.
Where's the cough button?
Geelong this week. You'd say cough, didn't you?
Yeah.
Geelong,
I was going to say before you get into the game, the last thing I want to fucking see is us piss away one of the best freakish generational players I've ever fucking seen with having nothing around him for 5 or 6 years.
I agree.
And then he's trying to carry... It'd be like when fucking Buckley in the late 90s performing miracles out there on his fucking own. Who wants to see that as you languish down the bottom of the ladder? They need to start acting about building support around Nick, giving him someone that can fucking run with him, protect him, all those sorts of things now, and then build a side around him.
So here's the one
Rebuild a side, rather, not build.
So here's the dangerous thing too, is I think you go back to 210 when we won the flag and should have won 2-3 more. We bottomed out for whatever reason. I know people say we might have tanked and shit like that, but I think after 02 and 03, we were psychologically shut. We hit rock bottom. Finished, I think, 15th or second last in like one of those years, and about 4th last in the other one. You got Pendles, you got Daisy, then you got Reed. But when you're at the bottom, it exposes everything. And no one's fucking around going, oh, we just need a couple of players and we'll spring back up. They knew what the problems were, they addressed it. Like, they drafted Pendles and Daisy and side bottom and Beams, but then they also got a spine with, Dawes and Reed and Brown, and they already had Cloak there. So, like, they really addressed the team from the ground up, which is what I think bloody Carlton's done too. When you're sort of thereabouts, and like we've won the flag, obviously, but when you're up there, and you've seen Hawthorn do it coming out of their free Pete, and you've seen Richmond do it coming out of their free 8 flag, they could have won 4. But their free flags...
Who stopped them?
Yeah, I think it's... I don't know. But you've seen these clubs top up just because they think they're going to be thereabouts. And I think when you're up there, it gives you a false economy, and you think, hey, we just need this player and we'll get there. We just need that player and we'll get there. And then what ends up happening is like, well, maybe you were sort of thereabouts, but you're never really a threat. And then the bottom just fucking drops out, like it's done at Hawthorn, like it's done at Richmond. I think even like St Kilda, when Graham Allen went there and he recruited all these players, these Brad Hills and Paddy Riders and that, and they sort of got in the finals, but they never looked like they were going to actually win a flag. And then they've gone to shit. And I think that's the sort of danger with Collingwood. I really hope they're not sitting there going, we've got Nick, we're probably just this one player short, let's go get him, and that's not going to work out.
More than one player.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like, and then just they're plugging holes, and they're plugging holes with fucking Moneyball solutions. I mean, no offence to Mark Keane, but it's all this, we're going to get Sam Taylor from GWS. Well, that didn't turn out. We're going to get Logan McDonald, we're not going to get it. Oh, who are we going to get? Oh, Mark Keane. The guy already had. He went home. And that's,
We can get him for 2 first rounders.
I wouldn't be surprised. So going, and Geelong's a really good example too. They just kept topping up, kept being in finals, never really looked like they're going to win one until they got Dangerfield and Cameron. They got elite talent in there. Anyway, so we're playing Geelong. Thoughts? Do you think it'll win? In seriousness, not your 10-goal prediction?
I think after the last couple of weeks, they need a statement game to prove that they deserve to be where they are. I thought a few weeks ago we deserved to be where we are because that's where we are. But the last 3 weeks we've had a shot at top 3, boosting percentage, top 3. We've failed on all 3 fronts. Are we out of the 8th? We're 9th?
No, I don't pay attention.
Or we're either 8th or 9th. I thought we were 9th after Brisbane won on the weekend. So we've gone from contending for 3rd position for 3 weeks running to now out of the 8th. That's how much of a logjam it is on the ladder there. You can't afford to rest too much on your laurels now and take another loss. We need to win. And we need to come out and fucking play 4 quarters. I thought that's what was going to happen after that first quarter against Essendon. I thought, well, this is it. This is the statement you should be making. You fucking destroyed Essendon. You made them look third rate.
They're
third at the moment, but everyone's questioning why the fuck they're there. You had a target there that was ripe for the taking. And you rolled over, and it was a meek rollover too. It was, you had your little fucking comeback at the end. But the reality is they were 5 goals up at one stage.
5-6 goals. So
Well, that's a telling stat because that's how it's been the last couple of weeks. You're not doing anything to arrest that. You're not overrunning them. You're not winning games. And look, again, this is only a very small sample. But you've got to now, I think, seriously come out and fucking smash Geelong.
Yeah, the one thing I was going to say too is
show some fight.
I know people will say we lost our top 4 side. They're a really average side. And Geelong and Carlton proved that. Geelong and Carlton both smashed it.
Well, people were saying too that, look, Essendon's questionable because they haven't beaten a top 8 side all year. Well, based on our fucking form at the moment, they still haven't.
Well, we're not any 8 anymore, so they didn't beat a top 8.
Yeah, well, at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But they're a really average side. And I don't give a fuck about like Gold Coast playing better at whatever their stadium's called nowadays. They're a really average side at the moment too. And North's a fucking 18th place side. And you look at like everyone else, I know they beat Gold Coast just. Bulldogs beat them pretty comfortably. I mean, North kicked a few red time goals to sort of make it look a little bit more respectable. But all these 3 games, the really big problem is your fucking pressure has dropped off and opposition has just run over you.
Well, this game was the lowest pressure game under Fly.
Yeah, well,
completely. And that's telling you something, that we're trending down for whatever reason. And look, they may have a handle on it internally. There could be valid reasons.
I mean, he looks frustrated to me. Also.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. But, it's going downhill at the moment, and you want to make it go back uphill. Otherwise, the journey's just...
Yeah, what do they say about pushing shit uphill?
We won a flag last year.
Yeah, well, you take that, wouldn't you?
I'd take it.
No, what I was going to say is I was talking to you about Rocky too last week. And there's that scene where Rocky's in Mickey's gym and he's sweeping up and his former loan shark boss, Gazzo, comes in and they have a conversation. And at that point, Rocky's like at a low ebb in his life. He can't box anymore. And there's this big cardboard cutout of him on the wall, in the pose, the boxing pose. And Gazzo says, just as he's about to leave, hey, Rock, remember that guy? And that's like, I was saying to you, it's like fucking Collingwood, remember that side? because you're playing like bums. You really are. You're playing like fucking bums, and it's I'll take losing, but not losing like bums.
You could have been contenders this year.
Yeah, and it's really disappointing that it's such an open year. Like I think their best is good enough to match anyone.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, the stuff we said last week about players, you're relying too much on Nick. Your pressure's not up. There's too many lapses. I don't know if you really believe the press. There's commentators like Kane Corns and that saying Collingwood have lost their aura. Do you think that is the case?
Look, I think the key thing, or stupid as it sounds, is to win games. You've got to kick scores that are bigger than your opponent. We just don't have anything firing in the forward line at the moment.
No, but that's a problem. I think further upfield.
But it's that connectivity thing that you're asking then too much of defence all the way through these games. No matter how many fucking assaults you take, eventually you're gonna wilt and start leaking. The midfield needs to start running both ways a hell of a lot more and doing more work. And the forward line's just got to start kicking more goals. It's as simple as that.
Do you think it's redeemable, or do you think the season's done?
Look, it's in the cold, hard light of Friday night, I thought the wheels had fallen off and we were fucked. I'm probably thinking we're in a bit of bother at the moment. Not in trouble, but we're in a bit of bother. We can recover from this. I mean, all we do is win 2 more games. We're probably bloody back contesting for top 4.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking schizophrenic rounds. I don't know whether you do the tipping, but fucking hell,
No.
this time of year, normally you can nail pretty much all of them. You just don't know what each game is going to bring at the moment. And with all that uncertainty in there, you can relaunch and get back up there again. So from that perspective, there's time left to recover from this. It's only a small slump. We had a slump at the tail end of last year. We won a fucking flag. You remember we won the flag?
You'd take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd take it. So, no, at the moment, no, we can come back.
Let me ask you a slight hypothetical. You're on the Titanic. You've hit the iceberg. It all feels pretty leisurely. The officers are just courteously and calmly telling people to get on lifeboats. Do you jump on a lifeboat, or do you think the Titanic's unsinkable?
I'm trying to draw a parallel to football in that.
Do you think
Collingwood's unsinkable?
Do you think you're on Collingwood and they're sinking? That's the parallel.
At the moment, it's like, the tail end's going down, but maybe those watertight compartments they designed are going to make it buoyant again. As the water hits, maybe it's going to right itself. That's where I'm sitting at the moment.
All right.
I think there's a chance we can right ourselves. Next week, though, I'll probably write us off.
Tip? You'll write us off. You'll go, fuck the rant at halftime. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm out.
I didn't do that this week.
I did it this week.
No, I reckon Collingwood win by 10 goals.
Yeah, good on you. I'll say Collingwood by 17 points. Any last thoughts?
I thought you were going to say 17 goals.
Nah.
You take that, though, wouldn't you?
I'll take 17 goals.
Any last thoughts? Just go out there and fucking win.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I'll do make it that shot.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Subscribe, like, comment.
We'd like you to
share.
subscribe.
Yeah.
Show you care.
We'll see you on the car pay for you. Later.
See ya.